and over. How do you rate Gennadi's performance tonight?
I think I have to rate two different rounds. I think the first round he came out real like he wanted to knock his head off. When he came back in the corner, I asked him to settle down. I asked him to do some throw some combinations, get into a rhythm, stop trying to get a one-punch knockout. And he came out in the second round with that kind of conviction.
We saw everyone mentions how at the end of the first round, Rosian got Gennady with a good shot, and then he seemed maybe that it got to him. What did you tell him? Did Gennady say something to you about that?
No, this is like he says. This is boxing, and the fact that he caught Gennady with a shot just gives us, not only the corner but the fans, the kind of fight that we came to see. We didn't come to see a blowout. We didn't come to see somebody just get beat up. And the fact that Vanes came at him, and look, if they go at each other like they did, what if Vanes lands a good shot like he did in that round? What if the second round, when they're going at each other, Vanes lands a good shot and it hurts Golovkin? But I think that's what we've expected from Golovkin. I think the StubHub has become known for those kind of fights, those kind of action. So I think that it excited the crowd, it excited Golovkin, it excited us in the corner, because finally we're getting somebody that's going to give us the kind of fight that the fans are looking to see.
You think it might have gave Vanes maybe a false sense of confidence when he landed that shot, and that's why he stood in there?
No, I think Vanes made it clear from the onset that he was going to come out and try to disrespect Golovkin, but very few people have done that. I think what's his name, Willie Monroe tried that too, but eventually I think Golovkin's not only power but ring IQ takes over. But if they give us that kind of fight, we all get treated to a great night.
What were you expecting when Vanes stepped in the ring with Golovkin?
Exactly that.
Yeah?
Exactly that. I've known Vanes for a long time, and I know that he's a warrior. I have another cruiserweight champion that is Armenian also, and their blood is like this Russian blood. They just like to fight. They just want to come at you. And if he did that, I knew that he was going to get caught. I didn't think it was going to be the second round. I said to somebody the sixth round is what I thought. But I'm happy it's over.
Abel, can you mention in English, I know you were talking in Spanish about the hair follicle test, that doesn't settle things for you, that you still, can you put it, can you mention what you said in Spanish about why the test results were mentioned so late?
Well, first of all, I think that if I have a fighter that I'm trying to prove is clean and we made a mistake, I think that I would have him enrolled in every kind of test you could imagine. I think that Oscar and Canelo have the resources to be able to do that. Vada should be testing him now. I think Oscar was quoted about 3 weeks ago and saying that he's going to be tested every day.
Every day.
To this day, if you ask Vada, he hasn't even enrolled in anything. So they're not trying to comply with what we would like for them to comply with. The hair follicle test, if I have a fighter that tested dirty and I'm going to do a test that everybody's asking for, and I know that my fighter's clean, I'm going to yell out to the world to say that I'm going to test the hair follicle like everybody wants, so that everybody can see that I am clean, knowing in their mind that the test is going to be negative. Yet, that test wasn't talked about until the results came out. Why?
Don't you think if you moved on from Canelo, it would ruin his career forever? If you just said, we're not going to Canelo, I know it's a money fight, it makes monetary sense, but if you moved on, don't you think Canelo, or do you believe, is a better question, do you believe that it will tarnish Canelo's career and you guys moved on and fought?
No, I think Canelo's a great fighter. I think Canelo, if everything is true, he made a mistake. Let's clean it up. Let's clean it up in this next fight and go on to the next one and have a great career after that. But why does this have to linger not only from this fight to the next one? If he doesn't test at all this time, until he gets reactivated by the Nevada Commission, if he doesn't test at that point, are we to believe that he's doing nothing? So why not just clean it up right away?
It's great suspicion. Yeah. Caught in Mexico, didn't enroll. It's just too much suspicion.
Yeah. Let's get it over with. Let's test, get it over with. I'm clean. Then we go on to the next one. And I think people will forget. I think people will forget.
After the outcome of the first fight and the bad blood between Canelo and Triple G, if they fight again, do you think Canelo will be more offensive?
I think that both guys are going to be more offensive. I think that both guys are pissed off at each other because of things that I've said and things that they've said. But that's good. That's good for all of us. It's good for me in the corner. I get more work to do.
Abel, let's say they don't fight each other. What's after Canelo? What can we expect?
At the end of this month, probably in the next couple, 3 weeks, we're going to sit down as a team and discuss with Thomas, discuss with Eric and with Oscar to find out what it is that is possible on that front.
Would you just go after like an O'Sullivan guy that?
Oh, you know what? There's a lot of opportunities out there. Like the
Ideally,
question
who
was
would you want?
Canelo.
Let's take Canelo out of the equation.
Whomever is willing to step up to the table. Listen, the only reason this Vanes fight was made because Vanes was reasonable.
Right.
Okay? With the situation. Every time somebody fights Golovkin, they want lottery money. And sometimes it's just not possible. I know that you guys don't get to hear the numbers because it's none of nobody's business but Golovkin and whomever he fights. So when Saunders says he wants $7 million to fight Jacobs, that money's not there, man. So now that's to fight Jacobs. Imagine what he wants to fight Golovkin. You know, so it's all it's the guys that want to step up to the table and have that opportunity to fight for 4 belts or for the belts that will determine that.
Assuming all things equal, though.
Well, that's the beauty about 360 Promotions. They're really the Sweden of boxing. They're pretty neutral about everybody. They're willing to work with.
Oh, we're willing to work with everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody. It doesn't matter.
Okay, let's take Canelo out of the question. Who, as a trainer, I mean, you're really the guy that spearheads.
The best fight for me would be Murata right now.
Murata.
That's what I would want. Why? Because of the prestige in selling out of the arenas that he's doing in Japan. He's the one really that's trying to be somebody. Everybody else here in the U.S. is waiting for a payday.
Yeah, and I think most of us, maybe a lot of the media members, don't know who Murata is, and you know who he is.
Well, of course,
I know
he's a gold
who
medalist.
He is,
He's a gold medalist who's a WBA regular champion right now. He's probably got about 14 or 15 fights, maybe 16 fights. But everybody here in the U.S., the guys that were mentioned, they're all waiting for a payday. Look, Derevchenko fought an 8-round fight against a guy that was 22-22 in his last fight. 2 weeks later, that qualifies him to fight Golovkin. That don't make any sense.
What if the IBF said that has to be next, though? Would you give up the belt?
What? That's something we have to sit down as a team and discuss, but I think that Tom made it clear that there's some issues that have to be resolved legally.
Yeah.
Their bylaws don't particularly say that, so when Ron and their attorneys or Pat Lynch and their attorneys get it ironed out, we'll know what the next step is.
Abel, is Murata, is he really as big a challenge as the Jacobs and the Saunders and the Charlos, though? Because you said that's the fight you want the most, but wouldn't those other guys be more challenging? I know you're saying they want the big paycheck.
But challenging for what people don't understand is that if Golovkin carries the show and they're asking for 50% of the money, that's kind of hard to do. It doesn't matter what the other guy is. If Jacobs and Charlo were to fight each other, or if they were to fight somebody, Jacobs looked terrible in his last 2 fights. Now, if he has a great fight, now we're talking again about interest. But if there's no interest and they're looking for lottery money, that's kind of hard to stomach for Golovkin anyway.
So do you feel like Charlo and Jacobs, they got to fight each other to earn a shot?
No, maybe go after Saunders, go after Derevchenko, go after some of those guys that are claiming to be at the top. Golovkin's not going to fight all of those guys. There's 5 or 6 guys that were mentioned. He's not going to fight all of those guys in 1 year. So they're going to have to eliminate each other somehow. Because we'll be talking about 3 years from now.
Who is the most difficult, though? Maybe not the biggest fight, but who's the...
They're all difficult, man. They all have their own. Derevchenko's got a great amateur career. Derevchenko's got similar style to Golovkin. He's not the puncher that Golovkin is, but Jacobs has already proven that he's a hell of a fighter. Charlo is ex-world champion at 154, so they're all difficult. But it's just the one that's not only more marketable, but the more incentive for Golovkin, the more that we have to gain as a team. He is 36 years old. It's not like he's just going to fight fights to fight. You know, this fight tonight, I know all of you are too young to remember, but Ray Leonard fought Bruce Finch, fought David Boy Green, fought Andy the Hawk Price. You know, all these fights happened. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for us. With the circumstances weren't the same. It was forced on us, but all those fighters had those kind of fights. Bernard Hopkins had Antoine Eccles twice. Robert Allen 3 times. Come on.
Joe Lipsy.
Yeah, Joe Lipsy, exactly.
You're Joe Lipsy.
Hey, boy, if you do get the rematch with Canelo, would you advise Triple G to go to the body more than the first fight?
You know, in order to go to the body, did Canelo go to the body against us? No, and he's a body puncher. He knocked out Liam Smith with a body shot. You know, in order for somebody to be able to do what they did in the past, or to go to the body with Canelo or with Golovkin, they're going to have to be in front of him to be able to do that. You cannot. There was one point in the 4th or 5th round where Kenny Bayless admonished Golovkin for hitting him in the back. And if any of you know the rules, when somebody turns their back and a punch is on its way, it's a legal punch because you turned your back. Well, he warned him. We're in Vegas. We got a Vegas referee. We got judges that at the beginning I cried about and complained about Bird being on the panel. But we got Golovkin's not going to take a chance on getting appointed that day. We knew it was going to be a close fight. I said to Gennady before we left, I said, we're 2 points down already.
You also complain about his wraps, correct? About the way they were wrapping his gloves?
Well, believe it or not, you can talk to the commission here if they're still here. That is completely illegal in any part of the world, except in Vegas. Believe it or not, when we were there on the 18th of April for the hearing, rewriting the rules to allow that, only in Nevada.
They're rewriting, so that means it was illegal at the time of the fight.
Well, no, now they're specifying that it's legal. Okay. Before it wasn't either way, yeah?
Hey, but Lara's team had complained about Canelo.
Of course, it's illegal, man. I shouldn't say it's illegal. It's not within what we as the business understand it is fair play.
What was the illegal part of it?
They're building a cast. They're building a cast.
A little more specific on it.
Okay, what they did is they put, in order to get away from the tape on the hand, they put wrap and tape, wrap and tape. It's like when you go and get a cast, what do? They put layers and layers and layers to make. Yeah, exactly. But you can, and don't quote me, but you can call the California Commission. They'll tell you that is completely illegal, and they're ignorant there.
Was it as illegal as the Margarito cast, or was it?
Well, first of all, Margarito didn't have a cast. The commission's never proven anything.
Yeah, but from what he was, Ruben Lee had in his wraps, the plaster of Paris or whatnot.
Nothing in his wraps. What he had was salt from, and if you read the rulings, the commission has never come up with anything that he did illegally other than use old wraps that had salt from sweat. Okay, they've never said that he had plaster.
Yeah.
They never said that he had plaster. But what it is if you're familiar with weightlifting, the guys put that belt on to keep all you're doing is just making your hand into in more of a weapon. It's not on the knuckles, but it's just on the hand. It protects you, but if that's the rule, then it should be the rule universally so that everybody can do it.
Hey, when you were asked about going to the body more with Canelo, you said, well, you're going to have to have the fighter stand in front of him.
Not necessarily.
At the end of the day, it's your job to cut off the ring. It's not his job to cut off the ring.
No, it's not.
It's boxing.
No, it's not.
He moves, you cut off the ring.
No,
yes.
I'm sorry, you're mistaken. You're mistaken because boxing is a man. If he's saying he wants to knock him out, he needs to be standing there to knock him out. You can't be throwing punches in desperation to try to knock somebody out. You're going to have to knock somebody out by standing there and wanting. Now, using your defense and if you saw the Hagler fight and the Leonard fight, Leonard didn't run. Leonard stood there and fought with Hagler. But that was boxing. Okay? Canelo didn't stand there and fight with Golovkin. Golovkin tried to make it a fight. Okay, so it all depends on what you want to see, though. I'm not saying that he fought a bad fight. He fought a great fight just not to get knocked out. He fought a great fight that he had never fought before. But if I'm a consumer and I see 45 fights a certain way, I'm expecting that kind of fight when fight night comes. If I get a different fight, then I'm going to complain as a consumer. I'm going to complain that I didn't get what I paid for.
Then what's your definition of cutting off the ring for you? Because last time I remember in boxing, it was if a fighter moves on you, you're supposed to cut off the ring.
Well, yes, of course you're supposed to cut off the ring, but you cut off the ring, and if two fighters want to make a fight, they're going to have to throw punches at each other. You cannot throw punches in desperation and run away and expect for it to be, even though you were there, expect for it to be a palatable fight for the fans.
Abel, you talked about the rats and you said it's only legal in Nevada. If that's the case, why not do it yourself and kind of gain the same?
Because I have 10 other fighters that I want to make sure that I wrap them the same way that I want to be able to wrap them anywhere in the world. I don't want to go somewhere where they're going to tell me I can't do this, and now my fighter in his mind is thinking, oh, I'm used to this, and it's going to affect us. I think mentally it affects us.
The money is with Murata and Canelo. Canelo, do you think the respect is with Charlo in terms of Gennady and his career?
I think the respect is just continuing to eclipse records no matter who he gets in there with. Breaking the record. Now he tied it. Don't get me wrong. I think Bernard Hopkins is a great fighter. I think that Bernard Hopkins accomplished more than many of today's fighters will ever accomplish. But I think that by beating the record in the next fight and continuing to do that regardless who they put in front of them, I think that's what's going to be more important. Not about the money. It's not about the money with Golovkin. Seriously. If it was about the money, he wouldn't have fought this fight, because this fight was for nothing, almost.
Is the Canelo fight personal now?
No, nothing's personal in this business. You know why nothing's personal? Because the one that gets personal loses. Because you lose your mind. You got to go in there with 100% focus on what you're doing, and if you start making it personal, then then it gets ugly, and it's a sport.
Now,
I will not stop talking about it because I think that it gets under his skin, but it's nothing personal. I think he made a mistake. Okay, quit making mistakes. My message: get enrolled in VADA.
When you kept the date and Golden Boy took the May 4th date, did you take that as a personal jab or a slight issue because they basically pulled from the same audience that you will be bringing in tonight?
No, I think that there's a lot of fighters that need opportunities, and there's a lot of fighters that need to be on this type of stage and need to fight. Golden Boy's got contracts with a lot of fighters that they need to put on, and whatever date's available, they need to put them on.
Piggybacking on his question about yesterday's fight, did you happen to see Ryan Garcia's fight?
I did not. No, but I heard that he went 10 rounds, and he learned a lot in the fight, as I told you he would.
Abel, I know you got to wrap it up, but did you have to chew that steak so loud?
I just did another one for ESPN Spanish, I think. But, it's just, again, when you're in a public eye and you do something wrong, you have to be ready to take criticism, man. You have to be ready to, and it's nothing personal, it's criticism because we all do it.
That's why it looks good.
Yeah.
Abel,
it was 4 steaks that I went through, okay?
Abel, prior to the testing scandal, when the Pez accusations against Canelo and the positive test, what was your perception of Canelo, and now is that tainted? Do you see Canelo as a lesser fighter? Do you see his legacy as a tarnished one? How do you see him, just the perception, how does that change?
Absolutely not. I think he's a great fighter. I think that Chepo and Eddie have done a magnificent job with him, bringing him from 15 years old or 14 years old, whatever it was, to this point. But I think that we all make mistakes, and when we make those mistakes, we have to rectify them in a way that proves to everybody that we made a mistake, and not hide and not act like you're above the law. You're above any kind of scrutiny from anybody. If he doesn't want scrutiny, if he doesn't want the jokes that we're doing, then maybe he needs to do what Oscar continues to say and what the WBC continues to say, he's a clean fighter. He needs to go get tested and prove it to us.
I know hindsight's 20/20. Do you wish you would have got Billy Joe Saunders' belt last June?
No. Billy Joe Saunders again is another one of those fighters that they think that they're waiting for a paycheck. They're waiting for a huge paycheck, and it's difficult to negotiate with somebody like that because it drags out Golovkin's career. I don't want him to go back to fighting once a year. I want him to fight 3 or 4 times a year, and if this is what it's going to take, then I'd rather have that.
So you don't think Billy's serious about fighting you guys, or it's just a lottery, like you said, lottery money?
It's a lottery money, man. It's really, I think that it's not only Billy, but it's Charlo too, waiting for that. At least Danny is calling him out. Danny's calling him out because, Danny recognizes, and I think Danny's people recognize that it could be a year and a half before all these guys get in line or get to the point where they're going to fight Golovkin. So if the Canelo fight happens in September and the Murata fight happens in December, then we're talking about next year for some of those guys. Why not fight each other? Why sit at home waiting to do something for that fight?